Crossing over $5 million in net worth might feel like reaching the top of the mountain. For most people, it might feel like the point where work becomes optional, financial stress fades, and years of disciplined decisions finally pay off. But here's what surprises many affluent families. Accumulating $5 million often isn't the final destination. In fact, for many people, it may just be the beginning of several completely different levels of wealth, and each level plays by a different set of rules. The strategies that helped you accumulate wealth aren't necessarily the strategies that will preserve it, grow it, or transfer it efficiently. As your net worth increases, the questions change. Taxes become more meaningful. Estate planning becomes more sophisticated. Investment opportunities expand. Legacy begins to matter as much as returns. Over the years, I've worked with families across the entire spectrum, and one pattern continues to stand out. The people who recognize when they've entered a new level adapt their planning accordingly. The ones who don't often continue operating with a playbook they've already outgrown. In this video, we're going to walk through the 5 levels of wealth above $5 million, what defines each one, and how the strategy evolves as your balance sheet grows. So let's begin with the first level, where financial independence is established, but smarter planning is just getting started. The $5 to $10 million level. We call this the fundamental shift. For most households, obtaining net worth between $5 to $10 million is the point where the conversation may fundamentally change. You may no longer be asking whether you'll have enough. Instead, you start to think about how to make the most of what you've already built. A well-constructed portfolio at this level can often support a vibrant lifestyle indefinitely. That may shift the objective away from accumulation and toward coordination. Returns still matter, but taxes, withdrawal strategy, asset location, and cash flow planning begin creating more substantial value than ever. A good decision may save hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. However, a poor one can quietly cost you just as much. Many investors continue using the same advice they received when they had $1 million. That's usually where inefficiencies begin. The portfolio has grown, but the planning hasn't. This is also where estate planning deserves attention. While at this level, families remain below the current federal estate tax exemption, reviewing core documents, beneficiary designations, trust structures, and family planning conversations become increasingly important. The families who thrive at this level recognize that wealth management is no longer about chasing the highest return. It's about building an integrated system where investments, taxes, retirement income, and estate planning all work together. And once financial independence comes into focus, the next level becomes much less about you and much more about the generations that follow. $10 million to $25 million. We call this independent secured. Once families enter the $10 to $25 million threshold, the conversation changes again. At this level, the portfolio is often capable of supporting not only your lifestyle, but potentially your children and grandkids as well, if the wealth is managed intentionally. The question shifts from will we have enough to how do we make sure this lasts beyond our lives? That's where estate planning becomes much more than a set of legal documents. Trust provisions, philanthropic objectives, beneficiary strategies, and tax-efficient wealth transfers move from optional conversations to critical planning priorities. Investment strategy evolves as well. Families often begin adding more alternative investments, tax-aware portfolio structures, and more sophisticated investment options, because this level of wealth allows for more illiquid allocations into additional asset classes, which creates a more diversified overall balance sheet. Protection also becomes a larger priority. As wealth grows, so does visibility. Asset protection, liability planning, and governance start carrying as much importance as investment performance. The families that do this well stop thinking in annual returns alone. They begin making decisions that optimize outcomes across multiple generations. They understand that preserving wealth requires structure, discipline, and intentional planning long before the next generation ever receives an inheritance. So once wealth becomes truly generational, the next transition isn't just about having more assets. It's about managing complexity on an entirely different level. The next level is $25 to $100 million. We call this generational wealth truly begins. Multiple entities, trusts, real estate holdings, operating businesses, private investments, and charitable planning all begin interacting with one another. Each decision affects taxes, cash flow, estate planning, and future generations. The objective isn't adding more advisors, it's coordinating every moving piece under one strategy that is considering multiple variables when making each individual decision. Estate tax planning also becomes significantly more important. For more families, the potential tax exposure is now measured in millions of dollars rather than thousands. Advanced estate planning, gifting strategies, and wealth transfer techniques become essential, not because they're sophisticated, but because the cost of ignoring them is so high. The investment portfolio starts looking more institutional as well. Private equity, hedge funds, direct investments, and other alternative assets often become meaningful parts of the allocation when they align with the family's objectives and liquidity needs. But perhaps the biggest shift is operational. Tax professionals, attorneys, investment managers, insurance specialists, and family members all need to communicate. When they don't, opportunities are missed and expensive mistakes become more common. The families who excel at this level stop treating wealth as a collection of accounts. They begin treating it like an enterprise that requires leadership, coordination, and a long-term strategic plan. So once wealth begins operating like an institution, it may be time to build an institution needed to manage it. 100 to 250 million, the multifamily office threshold. By the time a family's wealth reaches 100 to 250 million dollars, the conversation changes once again. The objective is no longer simply preserving wealth for children and grandchildren. It's creating a framework that can benefit multiple generations, not just in terms of providing inherited assets, but also providing education, direction, and instilling a sense of responsibility with those who will benefit from the wealth but may never know the source of it. At this level, legacy is often the central planning objective. Families begin thinking about the long-term impact of their wealth, not only within the family, but also through philanthropy, business ownership, and community involvement. Estate tax exposure can be substantial, making advanced wealth transfer strategies an essential part of the overall plan. The focus shifts towards moving assets efficiently while maintaining flexibility and control. Many families in this range choose to engage a multifamily office. A multifamily office is a firm that provides highly customized wealth management and financial oversight services to multiple ultra-high net worth families, offering many of the capabilities of a dedicated single-family office at a lower cost. In addition to investment management, a multifamily office may coordinate tax, estate, trust, insurance, philanthropy, family governance, and other advisors to provide integrated oversight of a family's entire financial life. Investment portfolios often resemble those of large institutions, with meaningful allocations to private markets, customized strategies, and long-term capital planning rather than simply chasing performance. Perhaps the greatest challenge, however, isn't financial. It's preparing future generations. Without clear governance, shared values, and financial education, even extraordinary wealth can become a source of conflict and distraction instead of opportunity. The families who succeed at this level recognize that passing down assets is only part of the job. Passing down purpose, stewardship, and responsibility is equally important. And that leads to the final level, where wealth becomes something much larger than a family's balance sheet. 250 million, family stewardship and legacy. Once a family's wealth exceeds $250 million, the conversation changes completely. At this point, the wealth often functions less like a personal portfolio and more like an institution. The structure likely shifts from a multifamily office to what is referred to as a single-family office. These are teams of organized financial professionals working specifically on one family's affairs and financial interests. Think of the Jeff Bezos or Elon Musks of the world. For example, Jeff Bezos' family office is estimated to employ more than 150 professionals, all dedicated to overseeing, managing, and preserving his family's substantial wealth. On average, a single-family office may cost between $1 and $3 million per year to operate. So at this level, the family isn't simply allocating investments anymore. They're overseeing businesses, foundations, real estate holdings, operating entities, trusts, private investments, and a professional team responsible for keeping everything aligned. The central question also changes. Instead of asking how to grow the portfolio, families begin asking what the wealth should accomplish over the next 50 or 100 years. Philanthropy frequently becomes more intentional at this level. Rather than making occasional charitable gifts, many families establish private foundations, charitable entities, or long-term giving strategies designed to specifically create lasting impact in areas they think are important, while also improving tax efficiency. Governance becomes just as important as investing. Clear decision-making processes, family meetings, education for younger generations, and defined leadership roles help ensure the wealth strengthens the family instead of dividing it. Professional coordination is no longer optional. Attorneys, CPAs, investment professionals, family office executives, and outside specialists must operate from the same playbook, because even small mistakes can carry enormous financial consequences. Again, with this level of wealth, these financial professionals are likely to be all in-house. The families who succeed at this level understand that extraordinary wealth comes with extraordinary responsibility. They view themselves as temporary stewards of something much larger than themselves, making decisions that prioritize continuity over short-term gratification. After seeing all 5 levels, the most important question isn't how much wealth you have, it's whether your strategy has evolved to match the complexity of the wealth you've built. Knowing your net worth is only the beginning. The more important question is whether your planning has evolved to match it. The first step is taking an honest inventory of your entire balance sheet. That means looking beyond your investment accounts, including your business interests, real estate, retirement assets, private investments, and everything else that contributes to your net worth. Once you know where you stand, ask yourself a simple question. Are you still using the same strategies that got you here? Many affluent families continue operating with a plan that was built years earlier, even though their wealth has reached an entirely different level. As wealth grows, tax planning becomes more valuable, estate planning becomes more sophisticated, investment opportunities expand, and coordination between professionals becomes increasingly important. What worked at $5 million likely won't be enough at $25 million. And what worked at $25 million may create unnecessary inefficiencies at $50 million or beyond. The families who consistently do this well are proactive. They upgrade their planning before the problems appear. They build the right team, put the right structures in place, and make intentional decisions that reflect the complexity of the wealth they've created. Ultimately, wealth isn't defined by a single number. It's defined by how effectively it's managed. The goal isn't simply reaching the next level, it's operating like you're already there. The number in your portfolio is only part of this story. Every level of wealth creates a different set of opportunities, responsibilities, and planning decisions. If your strategy hasn't evolved alongside your net worth, there's a good chance you're leaving meaningful opportunities on the table or taking on unnecessary risks. If you'd like help identifying where you stand and building a plan that's appropriate for your specific level of wealth, click on the link below. We would be happy to walk through your situation and help you create a strategy that fits where you are today and where you're headed tomorrow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.